We are raised to value cooperation and social harmony. Early on, we are taught that fitting into the group is the primary measure of success. But look closer at the world around you, and a different dynamic appears. Colleagues sabotage projects to promote their own goals. Peers offer help that never actually arrives. Just beneath the polite surface, most daily interactions are quiet battles for influence. When we are trained only for peace, these hidden threats leave us paralyzed. We find ourselves constantly retreating or reacting emotionally because we have not prepared for the reality of human conflict. A strategic warrior avoids lashing out. Instead, they cultivate a detached, calculated perspective, identifying the signs of hostility in others before those patterns can trigger an emotional response. To navigate this environment, you must acknowledge two distinct fronts. You must look outward at the people who stand in your way, and inward at the mental habits that prevent you from adapting to them. Navigating the social landscape requires a sense of polarity. An opponent provides a necessary navigational compass. Their resistance forces you to define exactly who you are and what you stand for. In 401 BC, 10,000 Greek mercenaries were stranded deep in Persian territory. When their leaders were deceptively lured to a meeting and assassinated, the troops collapsed into a drunken, aimless panic. The ambiguity of their situation had completely paralyzed them. A soldier named Xenophon realized their vulnerability was a state of mind. He rallied the men by looking outward, explicitly declaring the treacherous Persians an unforgivable enemy. That singular focus transformed their aimless fear into a unified, lethal drive to return home. Margaret Thatcher rose to power by using this concept of polarity. A middle-class woman in a party of aristocrats, she refused to adopt the conciliatory, polite style of the men around her. She purposefully drew a sharp line between her party and its opponents, using high-profile budget cuts to distinguish her agenda. The intense public protests that followed were not an obstacle. They were a signal to her supporters that she was a leader worth fighting for. Stop seeking common ground with people who are working against you. You can smoke out hidden opponents by proposing an ambiguous idea and watching who reacts with suspicion or anger. Once they reveal themselves, use their hostility to clearly define your own direction. Enemies are not a curse, they are a strategic tool. Their opposition cuts through social fog and hands you actionable clarity. Once your external targets are clear, you face the second front, your own mind. The moment you achieve success, your methods tend to harden into habits, and those habits become your greatest internal threat. The Prussian army of 1806 serves as a warning of what happens when a mindset becomes too rigid to react to the present. Prussian generals were obsessed with the legendary victories of Frederick the Great. They drilled their soldiers into mechanical perfection, endlessly repeating the exact maneuvers that had worked 50 years earlier. This chart of the Battle of Jena shows the result. The rigid Prussian lines were decimated by Napoleon's fast, scattered French forces, who moved without heavy supply wagons and adapted instantly to the terrain. You need the radical adaptability of the samurai Miyamoto Musashi. Before his final duel against the master Sasaki Ganryu, he realized he could not win by following the standard rules of combat. Ganryu relied on a famous long sword and perfect technique. Musashi shattered his expectations by arriving late and wielding a carved oar instead of a blade. This sudden breach of tradition threw Ganryu off balance, allowing Musashi to win in seconds. Musashi practiced a guerrilla war on his own mind. He made a point of erasing his last victory so he could respond strictly to the chaotic present. Success makes us lazy. When we rely on past formulas to solve today's problems, we become predictable targets for anyone more adaptable than we are. Strategy requires two forces, a rigid outer boundary for goals and a fluid inner core for adaptation. When aligned, you defend against a shifting world. Conflict isn't a tragedy, it's a testing ground that sharpens judgment. This friction builds a resilient warrior spirit. As you stop internalizing social pressure, you begin to see every interaction as a series of strategic maneuvers. This shifts your role from a reactive victim of hidden agendas to someone who actively defines the nature of their own environment. Look at your own life right now. Identify one person whose interests truly oppose your own, and stop trying to win their approval. Then, identify one rule you follow simply because it is what you have always done. Human conflict is inevitable, but when you apply the art of strategy to those daily interactions, they become a source of practical knowledge and growth, rather than a source of stress.